Hi Legion, John Hittler, co-founder of Evoking Genius and co-creator of the Genius Discovery Process with another edition of Pure Genius. Hey, you owe money to a friend? Or are you deep in debt? Or are you behind in your bills? Are you investing safely? Are you rolling in it? Well, how's it feel? What do you mean, how's it? There's an energy associated with that, isn't there? How does it affect your energy, your conversation with money? Are you feeling scarce? Are you feeling stressed? Or are you feeling relaxed and abundant? Well, the truth is, money equals energy. If you think about it, money is really a conversation. It was invented as a concept for us to keep our promises. So rather than saying, I promise to do this or that and swap and barter, we had this exchange where we said, well, you know what, if I don't want your chickens for my corn, shouldn't we have something generic, like a promise, which became money? Did you know that Genghis Khan, the 14th or 15th century world conqueror, invented credit? I mean, our conversation goes back even to the Bible. You hear the parable of the woman at the well or the woman at the temple where literally she walks in with almost nothing. She has 2 coins and she gives them both to charity. Wow, powerful. There's a powerful energy around money. Is it working for you or is it working against you? Well, today we're going to take on that subject. Now, I coach CEOs, entrepreneurs, team leaders, and individuals in creating lasting behavior change by making transformation safer and more attractive than standing still. Today we're going to take on this conversation around money equals energy and transform it in 5 different areas of your life. You want to play? Great. Let's spin the big wheel for what else? Cash and prizes. Why not? All right. Well, I'll start with a quick story. One of my early mentors, I started in business right out of college. First day out of college, I said, why would I work for other people? I'd rather work for myself. I had an entrepreneurial mindset from a long time ago. But I had a couple of mentors, and one of them was an elderly attorney, and he was 40 years my senior. So I started when I was 22. He was in his early 60s already. He was a pioneer. He was one of the guys, or one of the attorneys, that when Congress would enact tax law changes, he was the one who would develop the strategies for people who were investing to dodge the tax implications. Congress is stupid enough to think that when they pass a tax hike, that everybody just sits back and takes it. The truth is nobody does. Who has the best power and influence and advisors? People with money. So they would simply hire a guy like him, and he invented most of these strategies. He was a pioneer in this way. Very successful, very wealthy, and he had a great sense about him, both in terms of advice, but also advice around money. And I asked him, I was still in my early 20s, I asked him what was the best decision he ever made in business. And he told me a quick story. He was married to one of 4 sisters, 4 girls in the family, no boys. And he was he married his wife, and she was the 3rd of the 4th to get married. His father-in-law, his wife's dad, had a policy that once you got married, he gave you a check each year that you were married for $2,500. And he did it at Thanksgiving as a sign of gratitude. Wow, what a nice thing. Now, you can imagine, he was married in the early 50s. $2,500 after taxes was essentially a year's worth of income. You could live quite nicely on $200 a month after taxes. And he said the best decision I ever made was not taking the money. And I asked him why. And he walked me through it, and he said, I saw the other 2 sisters and my brothers-in-law in advance, and I realized that the money, the $2,500, wasn't a clean gift. It wasn't given freely without strings attached. It had, as he called it, a chain attached, not a string attached. And what his father-in-law would do, and I don't think he meant to, but what he would do is he would give the gift and then micromanage or slips wry comments about how you were living an abundant lifestyle, not the way he would have, because he was giving you the money. He actually had a string attached that, as my friend Stan said, it wasn't worth the price to pay. Now I asked him where he was financially when he first got married. He said, well, I was in my final year of law school. We didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. We did not own our own car. We had a rat hole little apartment. He said, God, I could have used the money. And every year from then and after, I could have used the money for something good too, but it was the best decision I ever made not taking it. And why? Because there was a ton of energy or entanglements connected to accepting the check. And you see that with gifts that aren't given freely. They have energy attached to them because they're really leverage or pressure from the gift giver when they have value or any kind of monetary value. Well, that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with this first concept or the premise for all of this is that money equals or money carries energy with it. You tell me, out of 10 financial conversations or transactions that you have in any given month, how many of them are super positive with a heartwarming ending and a Hollywood ending to them? And how many do you have frustration or negative energy attached to them? If you're like me, 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 are where you say, gosh, they promised delivery by this time and I paid for the overnight shipping and I didn't get it. Is it about the overnight shipping? No, it's about the fact that you paid for it and it was a broken promise. So it has negative energy attached to the monetary value you placed on that service. Or you go to we went to brunch this past weekend. We went with my youngest son, who's just getting started in life. He's 20. And the Sunday brunch was $35 a head. Now we knew it was going to be outrageously priced for the quality of the food because we were right on the Pacific Ocean, gorgeous setting. We were paying for the real estate and the food was at best mediocre. We were fine with it. We knew that before we went and we had a good time. But when the bill came and we paid in cash, he saw how much cash we were putting out and he said, how much was this? And we showed him the bill and he was shocked. Well, we were fine with it because we enjoyed ourselves. But the truth is, if we were there for the food, we would have said, that was a $5 meal, and we just paid 35 bucks a head for it, plus tip. It ended up being about 45 bucks a head. But he was stunned at how expensive it was for what we got, because the exchange wasn't really fair based on the food we got. He enjoyed the venue, he enjoyed the view as much as we did, but he didn't put that much energy associated with it, or much value. And that's the way money works. Money has energy attached to it. Where's your energy going? Is it an energy drain when you have to do things with money? Or is it building your confidence? It's one of the two. Scarcity or abundance, as we say. Well, so we promised to take on 5 different areas where we hope to transform your mindset and your thinking and your, really, if you will, your bucket of energy that you carry around every day. Do you have a hole in it that's called money? Or are you carrying around the same bucket and you're good to go? There's no leak in your bucket. Well, let's start. First one is what I'll call basic money management. And this is the blocking and tackling you do once a week or on the 1st and the 15th when you sit down to pay your bills. Because really, what is this conversation energetically? It's you fulfilling on the promises you made. So you pay your rent or your mortgage, you pay your car payment if you got one, you pay a student loan, you pay the utility bills, you pay credit cards, you pay whatever you have to pay. You sit down and write out checks, whether they're online or whether you still write paper checks. Some people still do that. But it's you delivering on the promise you made in the transaction you're in. So if you have a mortgage, the bank lent you money and you promised to pay. So on the 1st of the month, you pay them whatever the mortgage is. You're fulfilling a promise. Now, when does it get stressful? If you're like me, when there's more month than money, or when there's just too many bills, or an unexpected one where I say, oh, I had enough to do, now what do I got a stiff I'm not going to borrow from Peter to pay Paul. One builds confidence when you can sit down and manage your obligations in what I call a basic money management conversation. The other gets very stressful and you cannot. And why? The energy associated with it is you're breaking a promise that you made, either to a bank or an institution or to an individual, or you're keeping it. And when you keep your promises, what does it do to your energy level? At worst, it's neutral. Your energy level ends up neutral. But when you keep promises to yourself about working out, about spending time with people, about whatever, it builds confidence. In this case, paying your bills. You're simply keeping a promise you made. And that's good for your energy level. Well, in basic money management, there's two ways you can go. Either transform your basic money management practices and you'll transform your energy around money, or you can start the other way. You can transform your energy around money to move, simply put, from a scarcity to an abundance mindset, and you will correspondingly transform your practices. It doesn't matter which one you do. You can start with the practices and shift the energy, or you can transform the energy and shift the practices. Either one works really well. It's about keeping the promises with yourself and to yourself when you fulfill your obligations. That's where the energy's trapped. All right, so that's number one. Number two, investing. Now, why? You've heard it. Always pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. Money managers and financial planners will tell you that. That's a basic tenet. Why? Well, if you're doing your bills on the 1st and the 15th, how much excess money is there lying around when you pay all your bills? If you're like me, not that much. And isn't it amazing that whatever is left over tends to somehow get sucked up by Amazon, Walmart, or Target? If I have to wait for abundance or excess to show up for me to invest, chances are I'd never invest. So when you invest first, what are you really doing? You're paying yourself first. So you're saying the most important trust fund or confidence builder I have is not with my mortgage holder or my car payment guys or my credit card. It's with myself. The promise I have to keep first and foremost is with myself. So you pay yourself first, and it shifts your relationship and your energy around money, because let's say you can only pay yourself $50 a month. And that's by putting it into a 401k or an IRA or a stock fund or a savings account. If you're in the process of paying yourself first and investing and saving, you're in the game. If you're not, due to scarcity, how long before your energy shifts along that line? It shifts as soon as you join the game. So as soon as you start paying yourself first, even to get started with $25 or $50, makes an amazing difference in your energy level. And avoiding it because there's just not enough to go around, you stay trapped in the scarcity conversation. That's the biggest reason why you pay yourself first. Not because it'll keep you on a path to having enough money to retire, all that stuff. Yes, that's all important, but really you're building a trust fund, and I don't mean that in a monetary way, but you're building a trust fund energetically with yourself. So pay yourself first and invest. All right, third one. If paying yourself first is investing, what do you pay second? Well, people say, well, I pay all my obligations. I pay all the most important obligations. Here's the one to pay second. Invest first. Second one is write a check to charity. What? In front of my mortgage? Or in front of my car payment? Or in front of my student loan? Absolutely. Why? Again, we go to the why because the why answers the energetic question. The reason you pay yourself first is so that you build a trust fund with yourself. So you invest. The reason you write a check to charity, even a small amount, is because there is no other way to replace the feeling you get from serving others. You've probably had this experience. You sign up for a volunteer organization or a time slot, and it's something that you like to do, but you say, oh my gosh, that's Tuesday night this week. Oh my God, I'm tired. I just don't really, but you kind of grind it out, you get home, you change real quickly, you put your jeans on, you go, and you serve at a soup kitchen, you serve at an animal shelter, you serve at a daycare, you serve other people with your time and your energy, and you get back at 10 o'clock, which is too late, and you feel completely re-energized and you feel fabulous. Why? The reason is there is no other way a human being can replace the feeling of giving, serving, or supporting others with another activity. You can't say, I'll do it with a massage. I'll get a massage and I'll feel the same way. Or I'll meditate and I'll feel the same way. You cannot. There's only one way to have that sense in your life, and that's to support other people, either through your time or money. So the suggestion here, let's say you're all about animal rescue. I'll make that up. If you wrote a check every month for $10 to an animal rescue fund, or PETA, or ARF, or there's lots of them, you develop that sense of contributing to the well-being of others, and it costs you $10 a month. It's the second best check you're going to write every month, and it won't affect your ability to pay your mortgage, because you don't have to give a ton. You have to write the check. Now, as you can write more, you'll feel better as you can write bigger checks, but the truth is, not a whole lot. If you write a $10 check, you write a $100 check, or you write a $1,000 check, or a $100,000 check, it's the exact same feeling, and it can't be replaced by writing checks elsewhere. So that's the second check, second most important check, and the one in order that you write. Invest first, charity second. All right, so then we go to lending and borrowing. Now this is, we're going to take lending and borrowing for a lot, Alex, if we're playing Jeopardy. And here's why. This is where the entanglements start to come. So you got a mortgage, that's when it's pretty clear. You go, well, I can't do that. It affects my credit rating. It's the roof over my head. It's the biggest part of my budget, or your rent, either one. Then you pay your car payment if you got one. Then you pay your student loans. And you say, okay, well, you know what? I borrowed money from my parents. They lent me 10 grand because I needed a new roof on the house. I just didn't have it. Or the kids had to go off to college and I just didn't have it. That's where we call it the entanglements come. And you say, you know what? They're not going to bother me too much if I don't pay them this month. The problem is it changes Thanksgiving dinner, doesn't it? When you show up at Thanksgiving dinner, even if you're paying as agreed, the dynamics of Thanksgiving dinner shift when you owe someone at the table money, especially with family. Friends, same way. Have you lost a friendship over money? Lots of people do. We have clients that say, but you don't understand. It's not about the $1,000. Well, I'm really clear. The truth is $1,000 won't make or break any of us. It's about the sense of betrayal when they don't pay you. The classic one we hear a lot is, well, I borrowed $2,500 from my best friend to start a business. Well, the business went under. I got nothing left. I have credit card debt because I borrowed money on credit cards and from my friend. I can't pay any of them. Well, that wasn't the deal you made. You borrowed $2,500 from your friend. He wasn't investing in a startup and then going to get equity if you went big. If you went big, you were just going to pay him back the $2,500. But because it failed, and now you can't pay him, do you think that matters? No, and you lose a friendship over it. Because it shifts the energy between human beings. It's never or rarely about the money. It's about the conversation, the expectations, and the promises we had around money. So cleaning up your lending and borrowing, whether you're the lender or the borrower, cleaning that up is cleaning up the energy between the two human beings. One requires clarity and forgiveness. The other one requires, if you are owed money, if you lent money and you are owed money, it's about forgiving the past and clarifying the future. Even if that's to say, I'll never pay you, great. Then I have to forgive it and let it go because it's not going to change. Or if you owe, it's about recommitting or repromising. And again, clarity. You have to clarify where you're at and make a new promise. Either one starts to shift the energy around money, and who are you really shifting the energy with? yourself. Because when you're not keeping your promises, you're destroying your own self-confidence and your own energy over a monetary obligation. So try that. Clean up your lending and borrowing. If you don't know anybody personally, congratulations, because that's where most of the entanglements come. But let's say you've got a mortgage, you've got a student loan, and you've got a car payment. And people say, it just feels like I pay and pay and pay. The balances hardly ever go down. I don't feel like I'm making any progress. Here's a second strategy with lending and borrowing. Pick the loan that's got the shortest payoff time or the smallest amount owed. Maybe you owe 3 or 4 credit cards and you're making the minimum. Get one of them knocked out. Start accelerating payments on one of them so it's eliminated. It's one less bill in the mailbox every month. It's one less check to write. It's one less entanglement. And it releases energy when you clear that one up. So let's say you add an extra $100 or $150 a month to the minimum payment on that one and get it knocked out in a year. Great. Now whatever you're paying to that one, you say, that one's gone. I can take the full amount I was paying them and go after the second one and then the third one. And you start to release the energy that's trapped in writing the checks and owing the money. Clear? So that's lending and borrowing. That's generally where the most energy is trapped. Like my friend who got checks, could have gotten a check from his father-in-law. Really, it was somewhere between a gift and a loan because his father-in-law got say, oh, that wasn't a gift. Good for him for dodging the whole mess and staying clean of it. And there was a price to pay because he said literally we were fighting the cat for scraps for a couple of years because we didn't have a dime until he got out of law school and started getting a regular paycheck. But he avoided it, and as he said, it was the best move he ever made in business. I would agree. All right, last one. What I'll call mindset. Now this is your overall mindset. The simple way to put this, do you live in scarcity or do you live in abundance? Now this is not necessarily a monetary conversation. This is a life conversation. We know from global surveys, now this is across every culture, every socioeconomic region, poorest countries, most wealthy or wealthiest countries, 6 out of 7 human beings on the planet tend to live in a scarcity mindset. Now that's not with money, that's with their life. Essentially that conversation goes something like there's not enough. There's not enough to go around. There's not enough well-being. There's not enough food. There's not enough money. There's not enough care. There's not enough love. It's a scarcity mindset. 6 and 7. Amazing. And it's the same regardless of the culture. I've done a lot of foreign charity work. I'll go over and spend time in foreign countries, always obviously in deprived places. The most interesting that I did work in Togo, Africa. Probably never heard of Togo. It's the 3rd poorest country on the planet. The reason you haven't heard of them, they don't have any gold, they don't have any diamonds, they don't have any oil, and they don't have a port. So economically, nobody gives a crap about them because there's nothing to exploit them for. So the US gives them a little bit of aid so they don't go over to China. China gives them a little bit of aid so they don't go over to the US's side. But basically, it's a bunch of people, not much economic activity, and they're all destitute. What I found when we were there, they were also joyful. And the reason is, even power, basic power there, is not very common. You live in a lean-to or a washing machine box, and your family does. You don't have the internet, you don't have a television, you don't have access to the outside world. So they have no way to compare themselves to the rest of the world. They only compare themselves to their neighbors, who are also destitute. And then you have a simple choice to make. I can be destitute and happy, or I can be destitute and miserable. And the ones who choose to be miserable don't do very well. They tend to get sick and die. And they're all rail thin because there's not a ton of food there. But I was really struck with the fact that the people were joyful. They were genuinely joyful. And they lived what I would call an abundant mindset, even though financially and like from basic needs, they had terrible housing, no food, not clean water, no indoor plumbing or sewage, or sanitation, and they still chose to be happy. It's the same. We live in the most populous and prosperous country on earth. We have every opportunity, and still 6 and 7 live in a scarcity mindset. Which way do you choose? I'll tell you, you either choose scarcity and get the end result from it, or you choose abundance and it starts to shift your conversation around money. But really it'll start shifting your entire energy. You'll feel physically better because you've chosen an abundant conversation around money, which really looks like, you know what, there's enough. There's enough money. Am I rolling in it? No, but there's enough. I've got abundance of blessings, gratitude, joy, physical possessions. It's just a choice. So which choice do you make? Scarcity or abundance? It's completely up to you, and it will transform your energy level. So remember, money is fundamentally, it's a promise. We've invented this device called money, but it's a promise that has a ton of energy attached to it. Quick recap: invest first, give to charity second, and then clean up obligations that aren't real clear. You'll change your attitude and your mindset around money when you do that. If this was helpful, I ask you to like and share it with your network. It'll help them as well. If you've got comments, we'd love to hear from you. You can comment right below. Till we meet again on Pure Genius, all the best.